My name is David Kings. I'm the publisher in France of Metallica, the Black Album in black and white. That was the original title of the book. We published the book in French last year, and tonight we're very pleased to welcome Ross Halfin, the photographer of the book. Wonderful book, which Dave Brolan on my left here. Dave is the editor of the original English language version of the book, which came out just prior to the French edition. And Dave worked very closely with Ross on the book, and tonight is a wonderful opportunity for them to take us through some of the pictures of the book, and so I'm very pleased to welcome Ross onto the stage here.
Bonsoir.
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 Hello everyone. Welcome to this talk. As David King said, my name's Dave. I'm from Real Art Press in London, and we published this book with Ross and Metallica. And we're going to talk through the book, how it came about, Ross's work with the band over the years. It'll be an in-depth discussion about the album and Ross's career as one of the top photographers in music history. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions. No stupid questions, though. That's my job. And so I have a little clicker here as well. There we go.
If it works.
It will work. So just to sort of start things off, Ross has been flying around the world for decades now, and continues to, and he's the number one choice for pretty much every major rock band still working, and some still not working. Who are you currently working with?
At the moment I'm doing Metallica, Kiss, Motley Crue, the Black Crowes, and then Ozzy when he resurfaces in the summer.
Not bad. So also Ross, in the book, well, not in his book, on his website and Instagram, writes some very funny reports about airports and airlines. It's very entertaining, and we're going to work on a travel guide with him after the next project. So we'll go right to the very early days. Can you tell us how you started working with Metallica, your introduction to them and your first impressions of them?
My first introduction of them was Lars, who I'd see in rock magazines. I'd see him doing things like holding flaming drumsticks and doing really corny stuff, which is very Danish, or Nordic, shall we say. And I always look at it and think it's terrible. And their new management, which was Q Prime, I was doing Queensryche in Seattle, and the manager called me and said, "Stop being such an asshole and go and shoot my new band." And I really didn't want to do them particularly, but I was in Seattle, so I came down to San Francisco and ended up in El Cerrito. And this is where this was taken, because I took them out on the street, and it ended up, I think, on one of the 12-inch singles. They picked it, I think. Ride the Lightning? One of you may know, I can't remember. And this was really my first shoot with them. I ended up shooting them in the house and around, and this is really how I met them, really.
Did you listen to their music before you met them?
No, the main thing they were impressed by me, if you could be impressed by me, was that I'd done Iron Maiden. And when I was in their living room, they had a poster of UFO with Michael Schenker that was by me, and Motorhead, and they were both my pictures. And it was more that I knew these bands more than who I was at the time. And
you worked with them pretty consistently from that point onwards. And
Well, I sort of became, because I got on with them, so they'd want me to go and shoot them. And I did them a lot. I didn't realise it till I looked at it around Ride the Lightning. And then when they started making puppets, I went to Sweet Silence? Yeah, Sweet Silence, in Denmark. And I shot them there. And I started more, the end of Lightning, the beginning of Puppets was really when I became the photographer. And then really from, when they started making money, then they hired me all the time. That's how it became.
And what changes did you observe sort of between 85 and the end of the Justice tour around 89?
Well, the first thing I noticed when I first shot them, they'd all wear other band T-shirts like Iron Maiden or Angel Witch and stuff like this. And I made them stop. I said, you've got to have a look. Are they wearing band T-shirts? Yeah, look, they are. I think Kirk's got a Metallica shirt, has he, on there? Yeah, they'd wear, if you look, it was always a band T-shirt. And I said, look, you've got to have some form of your own identity. So stop doing that, And it's funny, they sort of did, in their sort of own slow way, became into the image of what they are. Cool. And it's very funny because once Metallica became how you see them on the Black Album, when I once did Iron Maiden again, and Iron Maiden were looking terrible, it's when they all look like a bunch of builders with like bum bags, what you call them, and everything. And I said, look, you've got to have some uniform. And Steve Harris said to me, listen, we're not fucking Metallica. And we're not doing what you want. But, the reality is Metallica look way better. That's true. Now, Cliff Burton, this is Donington, before it was called Download. And I always remember, I liked shooting this because he was easier to shoot there because he would headbang all the time. And you just get this blur. And I would tell him to stop. I said, stop for a second so I can shoot you. And he stopped for a second. Even though he's looking at the crowd, he's actually laughing because he knows I'm taking a picture. And I can get his head sharp. That's actually what's going on. Oh, God, this is the 100 Club.
Your favourite gig.
I thought it was a nightmare to do because I'd done the punk stuff there. And they loved it. I mean, the more chaos there was, the more they enjoyed it. And it really was. I mean, look at the crowd. They loved they loved that.
And how difficult was that to shoot?
Oh, it was impossible. It was like ridiculous. Everything was steaming up. But the more you see that, the more they, the charm of Metallica, as you probably know, they would always engage. So that's one of, you can see that there, which I think makes the picture. The show's been stopped while they try and get the crowd back.
All right. So now
this is Oakland Stadium, the day on the green I think it was October. And I came up with the idea, which I first did Richie Blackmore for Rainbow in Berlin on the barricade after the show for an album cover which was called Final Vinyl, and they all loved Deep Purple and Rainbow, so I said let's do it after the show. So as literally as everyone had left and the floodlights were on, I got them to sit at the front of the barricade with the empty stadium, which is that shot.
And then this features in the book, and let's talk a little bit about how the book came together. Now, you had an idea originally when you were shooting.
Oh yeah, when we first did the Black Album tour book for the tour, I wanted to do it all in black and white. And Lars couldn't see that at all. He wanted it colour, the show, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up trying to, even though the album cover was in, and I was never credited for the album cover, which still pisses me off to this day. And they said, and Lars said, no one's being credited. And then I remember when Bob Rock found out he wasn't being credited, he started crying like a 2-year-old. It's honestly true. So that's why Bob Rock gets a credit. Their idea was like Led Zeppelin. No, it was just the four of them, which I had to sort of give into. And I'm still not credited.
Maybe you should cry.
Yeah, I should cry. And then, so I said, let's do it in black and white. So the compromise was the tour book starts in black and white, the middle's in colour, and it ends in black and white. So when I did this book, Dave came to me about doing this book on the anniversary of the Black Album. I thought, let's do the original idea, which is just black and white. I mean, truthfully, I could do 15 books. I have so much stuff.
Yeah, the biggest challenge with this book was to cut down the number of pictures. There's thousands and thousands. So we put together a draft of the book, and I went with Ross to Berlin. It was just before lockdown, I think. Before all of that last tour. And after the show, we saw Lars about 3 a.m. He looked through it, made some suggestions.
They didn't really have anything to do with it, did they at all?
No. After they let us sort of get on with it, and then we saw Kirk, I think, the following morning about 4 a.m. And Kirk suggested that Robert write an intro, because Robert had been touring in Suicidal Tendencies.
Yeah, they were opening
on the early days of the Black Album tour. So that's how we got Robert involved, and he had a whole different sort of perspective on it. And then we saw James the following morning, and they more or less liked the direction we were going in, made their suggestions, and then when it was done, they all wrote a piece recalling the time as they saw it. Yeah. So they were very heavily involved from that. True. The actual finish side, they were. Actually, one of the easiest books we've ever put together in quite a short time, and then lockdown happened, which delayed it. And I think one of the things, you were in the studio as they were recording, was there any idea that things were going to take off the way they did, that it was going to become, they were playing in sort of big clubs?
No, not to me. I remember everyone goes, why don't you shoot more in the studio? You know, shooting someone recording an album is the most boring thing in the world, because you're in the way, you can't move anything, they're focused on that. And you see all these quaint pictures of like Jimi Hendrix, but in those days it didn't matter. You know, when they were doing that, it's actually dull. So I only went in there, I think I went for a week and went home, and I found it quite tedious, you know, when they were actually making the record. But I didn't think it was going to be that big. You know, it's when we went out with AC/DC and, you know, in Denmark, did it start? I think, yeah, Copenhagen. And then it's like, when I realised they were going to be big might be big, I think it was on Justice when they played the LA Coliseum, and the audience started throwing all the chairs. You know, literally they walked on and it was just a mass of people. And that's when I was like, whoa, and it was actually quite frightening. You know, even if you're on the stage looking down, it was just everything started coming at us. And of course they're going like this, encouraging it, which is like, they wouldn't now, but you know, then. And you know, I mean, I thought they would succeed, but I didn't think they'd be as big as they've become. Now they're sort of like a Metallica machine. It's like a blitzkrieg, you know.
So what are the differences between how you could shoot them then and how you work with them now?
Now is more difficult. Not that they're difficult, is that they have this rule where they don't want to do anything on a day off. So if I need to do something, I need to do it at the show. And Lars will be late, and then they have press to do, they have meet and greets to do, they have to warm up, they get this. So the time gets really compressed. You know, we've still got to do, I'm supposed to do a new shoot at some point, but I don't know where or when it'll happen.
So you just have to be sort of on standby.
I wouldn't say I was on standby.
No, when you're out with them.
We see, you know, but it you know, it's like before if I was here, we'd go and wander around Paris. Now that sort of doesn't happen. And also they're so popular now, no one will leave us alone, including any of you. You know, if I said to you, will you fuck off? You actually won't. You will, what's your problem? I'm like, you know, the problem is I'm trying to work.
And but you still, like, when you're shooting them live, you'll still do shots like this.
Well, it's more difficult to do stuff like this because now it's in the round. They've got all these GoPro things. You see these things that come on wires, which are cameras being filmed. And I always used to sort of, there was at a festival, so it didn't matter. But usually I do it at the end of the show. Now you're so exposed because the stage is so exposed. You know, you don't want to see me on the screen. You want to see them. So it tends not to really happen. It's really hard to shoot Lars at the moment, I will say that. Jason, there he is, doing his best Cliff Burton, impersonation. What have we got next? There's James, that's Black Album.
And so through all of this, on the tour, you were just shooting away. Were they giving you any direction or what they wanted to see?
No, they just let me do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Speaking of a day off,
well,
someone's come on the day
we're
off.
being interrupted, I believe.
Are we?
Yeah. Who's
What
coming?
have we got? Who? Ha! Let's see.
I think you might all want to give a little round of applause for a couple of guests.
Couple of them.
All right, how's everyone doing? Good evening. Oui, ça va? Ça va bien?
Should we go to the next photo? Let's see what we got.
Oh no, jumping right into it, Ross. God damn it.
This is, without a doubt, my favourite earlier picture, just because it's when we would all do things together.
Back when we used to hang out and drink tons of booze and get into a bunch of mischief every night on tour.
Right. That's at 40,000 feet somewhere over Russia on the way back.
Something like that. We were on the Sony Jet, I think.
Warners.
Yeah,
Well, they landed us a jet.
close enough.
What's the camera in your hand, Kirk?
That was an old camcorder. Back in the day, everyone had camcorders. We didn't have phones. We had these big old clunky things. And I hope I have that footage somewhere.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to see.
I like you're so affectionate to the drummer.
Yeah. Just
No, he's only kissing the fingers.
Yeah.
That's as close as it gets.
No.
He's actually telling me I'm number one.
They do this every night. Before you go on.
Actually, we're still doing that, yeah.
Next, what's next? Aha. Denver.
Oh, I wish I had that guitar. I should have bought that guitar. Look at that thing, man. That's crazy.
Someone brought it to sell you, didn't they?
Yeah, that was backstage a show in Denver or something?
Denver,
Yeah,
yeah.
Denver. And wow, that's a very, very cool sort of rock and roll backstage shot. That's what you would think.
You think they're all having fun.
Yeah. Well, you would think that, all the backstages were like that, but they're not. That was a particularly nice one. And usually they're pretty awful.
What year was that, Kirk?
I think 91 or 92. I could tell by my facial hair.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your facial hair and the progression of it throughout the book. But what are some of your earliest memories of working with this fine man?
Well, the first time I saw Ross was in San Francisco. He was staying at the Hyatt Regency at Fisherman's Wharf. And Lars and I went over to meet him.
Yeah, before we did the pictures.
Before we did that crazy photo session. It was I would say sometime in 1984 or 85, right? 85. Yeah, because
When did Ride the Lightning come out?
84.
84.
So yeah, it had to be
Before Ride the Lightning.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, the first thing he did is when I walked into the hotel room, he said, "Do you have makeup on?" And I was like, "No, I don't have freaking makeup on." And I thought about it, and I thought, well, he's just asking me that because he's used to shooting pasty freaking British people all the time. Sorry. I'm kind of brown.
Tanned.
Well, whatever you want to call it. Right here, us two were like Team Brown.
So now Ross,
Team Brown.
in those days, Ross would make you work almost as much as he makes you work now. But there was a hell of a lot of shoots during that period.
Yeah, I mean, we would work all day from like noon till late at night. And those first few years, we were always drinking.
That was it,
Everyone
mainly.
was drinking. We're having a good time. We'll take a picture of this now. That's
Actually,
why.
if you look at a lot of the pictures from then, everyone's holding Sapporos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the crazy behavior you see in a lot of these shots is because we were just all sitting around drinking, because that's what people were doing back then.
Now, you see, you can tell they're successful in this picture because they've gone to champagne.
I remember someone
beer.
handed me some champagne. I was like, "What's this stuff?"
And the best part of this picture is the following morning, I left, we all went to Schiphol Airport in Holland.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
and they took off before me, and then, no, they took off before me, and I'm still waiting for my flight 2 hours later, and I see them walking through the terminal.
Yeah, our flight. Okay, so we decided to stay up all night,
Correct.
so that we can go onto the plane, just sleep all the way back to San Francisco. So we arrived at the airport like at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, drunk, tired, a little bit hungover, on the edge. And so we get on our plane, and I remember thinking, "Oh, finally on the plane, I can go take a nap." So I totally pass out, and then I remember being woken up by Tony Smith going, "Kirk, wake up." I go, "Are we in London?" Because it was Amsterdam, London, San Francisco. He goes, "No, we're back in Amsterdam." I'm like, "Fuck off." He goes, "No, we have to get off the plane." I'm like, "What?"
And you got stuck.
Yeah, it was horrible, because we thought it would be just a nice cruise all the way back, but it wasn't.
And one of the first times we did get a plane, we were on the Justice tour in Australia, and we decided to stay in Sydney and go to Adelaide, and then the engine went, the propeller went.
Two engines
went.
But we had 5.
Yeah, and we turned round, and we turned round, and Tony Smith, who was the tour manager, we landed, he'd fallen asleep, and he wakes up and goes, "Where's the cars?"
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. It was an old plane. It was literally from the 50s, this plane. It was like a military grade plane. We were on it, and I could remember taking a really sharp left turn. It was really when you're on a plane heading to a destination, you don't take sharp left turns.
But you
go in a straight line.
The odd thing about all that is it didn't particularly bother us.
Yeah,
Did it? Well, now it would. Yeah, true.
But we took a really sharp left, and I looked at our tour manager, and he looked at the pilot, because he was sitting up front, and he said, "What's going on?" And the pilot said, "Oh yeah, two engines just went out." And our tour manager said, "What?" And he said, "It's okay. We have 3 more."
Yeah, 2 more.
No, it was a 5. It was a 5. I can't. 4.
Propeller.
No, it was 5.
No, they were propellers.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, it's a prop
propeller,
plane.
wasn't
5
it? Yeah.
props. Yeah, 2, and then 1 in the front.
Yeah.
And that's not very reassuring when 2 engines go out and the pilot says, "It's okay, we have 3 more." You want to see all those things going all at once, right?
Russia.
Oh yeah,
Luxurious Russia.
man. Whew. Yep, that was quite a show. I couldn't see where the crowd ended. It just got foggy, and the horizon got a little foggy and misty, and there's still people underneath the fog and mist.
Yeah,
There's so many people there.
With the army in between.
Yeah,
In lines. Yeah.
Army just in some pseudo battle with them.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And what was it like constantly having Ross in your face, on stage and off stage?
I'm pretty used to.
I used to call him at the time the magnet, because he had this habit of when he plays, you'll see another picture later, of always going like this. Remember that? I used to go.
That was before I was more flexible.
Yeah, exactly. He was like he's been magnetized to the amplifier. What's that? Aha, here we are.
Oh yeah.
This is recently.
This is
This
very
is
recent, yeah.
Hawaii, where he lives.
Yep.
And before you think this is super glamorous, this was taken at 5:45 a.m. I need to get up to do it.
Yep. But I'm up. If it's going to be a good shot and Ross is up for it, I'm definitely up for it too, because this man knows how to take a shot. And
Yeah.
What time is that?
that's probably like dusk the day before.
Right.
Yeah, that's 7:15 because it's on the equator.
Yep. See, there you go.
The sunset is always the same time.
And it's pretty crazy because we always go to the same spot, but it's a very dynamic spot. The background horizon always looks different, whether it's the clouds or position of the sun or just like.
And Kirk's shirts always look different.
Yeah.
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 This was last night.
That was last night.
Last.
Last night. I was thinking about it, but no, not really.
There's always tomorrow.
And Robert, what's your first recollection of meeting and working with Ross?
So would have been 90 or 89 or what? So Ross did a photo shoot for my old band, Suicidal Tendencies, and it was in New York, and I believe we were actually opening for Metallica. It was would it have been the Black Album tour? Because Jones Beach, yes.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh yeah. Okay, look at that. The sumo samurai semi-crab walk, and Kirk smelling his armpit, or or making a gesture like I smell. I don't know.
They'll be doing this tomorrow.
Yeah. So back then, Suicidal Tendencies was a very tough band from Los Angeles, and Ross comes in to shoot us. He's wearing a pink shirt, and it says, the Gay Olympics. And to my bandmates back then, they were kind of like confused. Who is this guy?
And you got to remember, Mike Muir was a very tough street guy. Yeah,
tough street guy, and here comes fearless, this fearless man Ross, and our drummer at the time, RJ. I remember you kept calling him Poncho, and Poncho, Ralph would have been hungover at the time, and what it is I know your tactics now. He likes to get the edge out of whoever he's shooting, so he might throw a jab at that person or make you laugh or whatever, but he gets the result because he gets the so of course Poncho he wanted to kick Ross's ass, and he was like click 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 click, and so that was our first encounter. We were like, who is this guy? He's a fucking nutcase, man. But he got brilliant photos, and oddly enough, I really do believe it was actually opening for these guys. Oh yeah, my old overalls. Yeah, God, I can't believe you got that.
Have you still got the bass?
Oh yeah.
There you go. Look at the shorts.
Okay,
I love those shorts, man.
Listen, you're claiming me for the Gay Olympics. Look at this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's my look. I celebrate it all.
That's Venice, man. That's Venice style.
That's Venice Beach right there. And I had the beer in the back, got my ampegs. Dude, I've never seen these pictures, Ross.
Yeah, no, we gotta
look at that. Oh,
that's
damn.
Amsterdam.
Is it?
That's
Yeah.
Oh shit. I still got some limberness. I'm trying to be like Kirk. Kirk's Mr. Yoga, and he's the most limber guy in the band. So I have to keep up with him.
You're doing pretty good, bro.
I do all right. Oh God. Okay.
Remember this?
So where was okay, Ross.
Teotihuacan, correct or not?
Mexico City.
Right, you said that correctly.
James and I trying to climb the pyramids and not doing a very good job of it.
Actually, I remember that day we were followed by about 100 paparazzi, and I said to and they wouldn't go away, and James was firm, I'm not doing pictures. And I said, look, why don't you line up? I'll talk to them, we do a picture. And he said, no, it's our day off. I'm not doing it. Do you remember that?
I didn't know all that was going on.
Yeah, he actually said, he said, look, I'm not giving in to this, which I respect him for completely. Right. But then eventually I remember at the end of the day, because there was a lot of tourists there, I said, I know, and I went and bribed the guide the guard $100.
Oh, okay.
And that's why there's no one there.
Right.
And he let us stay.
We had the pyramids to ourselves because Ross gave the guy $100.
Yeah, I remember
what can you
that.
ask for?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's always good fun.
And this was before Black Album.
Oh yeah.
No, that's Black Album.
That's Black Album.
Yeah.
We went before, and you can see the tourists. Look, see in the hawkers.
See, look,
7.
Lars gets the tourists, and James and Rob don't get the tourists. We get the privates. Privet.
There he is, worn out.
Yeah.
At the end, we used to do that a lot. He doesn't really do that anymore. He just runs around with sticks. Throwing them out. Let's have a look. What's next?
So I have a question for both of you here, actually. What do you think makes a great picture? What, when you're particularly on stage?
I think it has to be, it has to have some sort of emotion coming out of it, A lot of his pictures are very emotional. I mean, look at that one of Lars. It's just like, it just has a lot of emotion to me, He's just like exhausted and just like gasping for air. And Ross caught that, a moment of kind of like, exhilaration, exhaustion,
That's also
Slight bit of
exhaustion
posing
from
in
the
there.
night
Say
before.
what?
There's some slight posing going on. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
I'm not going to say anything about that, but still, it's like I think emotion and energy.
And how important is it for you to have your history recorded like this?
Well, because of Ross, I don't really have to bother with chronicling much of my on-tour life myself, which is great. Ross pretty much chronicled most of the 80s and the 90s for us. None of us were kind of camera wielding people, but Ross, fortunately, was always around and capturing all those memories, and I kind of I'm grateful for Ross. That.
It's also Ross is painfully honest, and if you don't look right, and you're just he'll tell you don't look right, or fix your chin,
Take it off.
Take it off. What's up with the bags under your eyes? Don't do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like.
No, that's prime you, isn't it?
Yeah, that was prime me. I mean,
You were so mean to Jason Newsted every time, though.
Yeah,
bro.
but he
You were
deserved it.
so mean to him.
I was mean to him. You
Well,
lot
okay,
were
we were,
worse.
but you were mean to him too. I mean, consistently in photo sessions, just say, "Jason, stop looking like you're in anthrax."
He did. Jason had no. Jason Newsted had this thing of every time he shot Anthrax, they would go, and every picture Jason would did, he'd do this, and I'm like, put your chin down. Remember that?
Yeah.
The chin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For years.
For years. Yeah. Yeah. He would. He'd have this look of.
So it was put your chin down?
Yeah. Not like.
Because with us, it's put your chin
Chin
up.
up. Yeah.
Well,
the other way.
that's what happens when you've been around for
It's
40
an age
years.
thing, yeah.
Aha. This is I thought we'd throw in.
Hold on, I'm gonna see that. Was that last night?
That's Amsterdam. But we
Amsterdam.
should have a talk
Looks
about
pretty-
the show while we're here.
Sounds pretty damn good.
You
I
haven't
can
seen
hear
it. They're looking at it because they haven't
I
seen
can
it.
hear it.
Yeah, what's
I
it
can
like
hear
seeing
it.
it from another angle? Because you're on stage, you have a whole different perspective to everyone else. Putting
I'm
you on the
sorry, I
spot
was
there.
just overtaken by the shot. Yeah, Rob, you have
be
an
nice to
answer
him.
to that?
Well, are you talking about from the perspective of being on the
Yeah, 'cause
stage?
you're not seeing
And-
this
and
ever.
yeah, so it basically, as you could tell, the stage is massive. It's like a racetrack, and we're still. What's beautiful about last night is there's a purity to it. What you're experiencing is the same thing we're experiencing. You're experiencing something new and fresh. And right now, there are no real rules. There's going to be inconsistencies. There's going to be a certain level of honesty to the performance. I don't know, last night there were a couple songs where there was a couple little snafus or less than perfect moments. But as Kirk will say here in a second, that's okay. You can fuck an intro up and you're going to be all right, man. Mistakes are good.
I'm still alive, and I made numerous mistakes last night.
From shooting the show, you haven't really worked out where you're going.
No.
There's
Not
bits
yet.
of it where I think they're going to go there, and then they're like miles, you know, you'd haven't, because you're still trying to work the stage out, really.
Last night I was trapped in front of Lars's drums because of the pyro, and I needed to get to, guess what, my wah pedal, and I couldn't because there's flames shooting over the wah pedal. Literally, like over where I was hoping to go.
I saw you over there, and I was
During
trying
fuel.
to get your attention. I'm like, and he's off in his world, so I couldn't get his attention. But it's also that too, is, you know, the stage is dark, it's black, so you don't always know where the pyro's going to come up. So there's only a few spots that are safe. And I guess your wah pedal wasn't one of them.
There's flames
No,
shooting
no.
right over it.
I remember at the end of Puppets, did it go off last
Yeah.
night?
Holy
it was like,
shit.
I mean, I missed it because it was so bang, and you were like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Jesus Christ. It was
Yeah.
just like, oh my God, man, I have an aneurysm.
And also it's different, because they're changing the set every night, the pyro's different every night.
Just like, that's
Yeah, it
as
is.
much of a shock to me as it is to you guys.
Keeping you on your toes.
So we're still trying to figure out the stage, and that's, you know, pretty exciting.
I'm just really, really glad we had these lights that are like outlining the stage, because I'm known for falling down and falling off things, and so I'm really thankful that those things exist.
So last night during Orion, I was playing the mellow breakdown with Lars, which I like to do because I've never really been able to do it that way. And then I need to get over to my tech to cue him on the
Bass solo.
So I'm like kind of casually walking, and then I realize I'm lost. I'm actually lost. All I see is a black stage, and I don't know if I'm going to fall over the steps or into a drum hole, and then I start running, and I actually passed my tech. Like, he was actually 20 yards that way, and I get up to the stairs, and I go, oh shit, and I see James and Kirk, and then I look back, and now it's time to go, near, so I'm like there's near, and then I look back, and my tech's like, and he hits it like in the middle of the solo, but, you know, again, the good news is we laugh about it, you know, just like, you know, it was, at least it was in time, right? You know, it was just like.
And tomorrow it'll be different again.
Yeah, it'll be
completely.
Oh boy, yeah. With all sorts of new thrills and spills in store, I'm sure.
Many people going tomorrow that are here?
Yeah.
And you've got to remember, they have to rehearse this before they go on for an hour.
We do. We rehearse. We go through about a third of the set, it seems like nowadays. But, you know, it's what we have to do just to make it sound as good as possible for you guys. Yep.
At the same time, what I want to add to that is, with some of these songs, in my opinion, like Fight Fire in Amsterdam was probably the tightest we've played that ever. So there are moments where you're going to get, I believe that you're going to get something really special, and the fact that we're getting into the newer songs and in challenging ourselves with even that, you know, is super exciting. So. You know, there are going to be more moments of glory, and there's going to be moments of, you know, hopefully not too bad of a train wreck, but, you know.
I'm getting used to the train wrecks, actually.
It's part of the show now.
Yeah.
Actually, I think, which I hope you'll agree, part of the initial charm of Metallica was it was a train wreck early on, you know, that came together.
complimentary.
You know, I mean, I remember seeing them at Lyceum and thinking, you got to be joking. You know, like, you know, but because they used to drink. It wasn't so much that, it was like they'd get shit-faced before they'd go on,
that's true.
as the show went.
Yeah. And then we decided, you know, maybe if we like save the drinking for after the show.
Yeah, now.
It'd sound better.
You learn as you go along. That's what life's all about.
Well, you know, you throw on a live tape and you're going, what? What, that's us?
That's not me.
That's me? No, that's not me.
That's a prime example of what Robert was talking about the blackness. You know, you can see nothing, you know, even though it's James.
Pretty much
That's the dark, nothing,
None,
you know.
None more black.
None more black. Next, let's go. Oh, God, right, this picture is the only picture in the book I truly hate. I really do. I wish it wasn't in the book.
Mr. Honesty.
Yeah, because I think it's a bit too much of a cliche now. And I sort of wish I hadn't. I mean, it is very much him at the time, but I wish I hadn't put it in. That's the only one. There's see, this is the contrasty light show, which they're famous for.
Yeah, that's really great shot.
And this is him. Where is that?
That's Bob Rock's Fender 12th Street.
It is?
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Yeah. And, yeah.
Aha, the 40th.
Was this San Francisco?
Yeah.
Chase Center.
That was last year.
Chase, yeah. That was...
That's a very rock roll kind of shot.
So Ross, how do you corral the band into position now that they don't necessarily
Well, only
have to
because
listen to you?
what I was talking about, I was saying before you got here that you work, even though you two have turned up today, they normally don't work on days off, and everything it's sort of quite regimented when you know what goes on. And I remember pulling them in to get the shot with the logo, for like 5 minutes. And it's more about, at first they'd stand in the hallway and block the photo. And it was just getting them like that. And I quite like, they're quite warm in that picture, if you look at it. There's a warmness, I think, anyway. Look at you,
pretty relaxed.
Yeah, pretty relaxed.
Very
That's
natural,
a good word, yeah.
That was the night I got COVID.
Yeah,
I actually got COVID that night. It's just like I was on stage going, why is everything weird tonight with my playing?
Oh, you did? Yeah, you rang me up and said,
it's
are
just
you
like,
okay,
really?
when I got home? Yeah.
I was just like, why do I feel like I'm in slow motion right now? That's how I felt when I was on stage for that show. And
That's night number 2?
Yep. And then I was talking to someone, Greg Fiddleman's assistant, Sarah. She said, you actually sound like you're playing like you're sick. You actually sound like you're sick when you're playing. So just a little tidbit, I was freaking sick that night.
You mean like
sick? COVID.
Yeah. Or like sick. Yeah.
Sick riff, bro. Sick.
I don't like, I don't like hometown shows because there's always too much going on, even for you lot, isn't there?
Yes. I mean, I have like 300 cousins.
Yeah, exactly. And your mum.
Yeah. Or people who claim to be my cousins.
Aha, there's Bob Rock.
Oh, yeah, Bob.
There he is in his white shirt.
What's it like now mixing in, Black Album songs? You've got such a catalogue to sort of get through in a show. I mean, that's one of the reasons for no repeat, I imagine.
So the question is,
just what's it like now?
Just like those songs, I will never get tired of. Actually, I never get tired of playing any of our songs. It's just all our songs are really, really fun and great to play, and really, really enjoy them. And like the Black Album's it's up there with just packed full of songs that I love to play. I mean,
what's the hardest Black Album song to play?
I don't know, probably Struggle Within.
One each.
No.
Yeah. So Struggle Within for you.
Yeah, because that verse is so sideways. I always have to write it out, write a chart out.
So for me, I mean, I've had the good fortune of being able to be in Metallica and actually play the entire album a few times in its entirety. So there were songs that you didn't play live from the Black Album, like Don't Tread on Me. Like Misery was never played in its entirety. Struggle Within wasn't played. So I feel fortunate that I was able to actually perform these songs. But Don't Tread on Me is complicated for me only because there's a lot of backup vocals in the way the riff kind of climbs and the progression of the riff and how it works is a challenge. But I actually enjoy it and have fun doing it. Those songs that album's so much fun to play live in its entirety because the songs have these sort of personalities and this character and this dynamic range, and Misery was super fun to play live, really great with the crowd and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask them one last question, and then they're going to go. I'm going to let them go.
Thank you, Ross. Jeez.
That's because it's their day off.
He's going to let you go.
Apart from the Black Album and not the new album, what's the hardest Metallica song each to play?
Just in our catalog?
Catalog.
Have you written it down?
You get
my notes.
There's your notes.
Okay, I got it. Go ahead.
No,
You asking me?
Yeah.
Both of us. I'm still thinking.
The hardest Metallica, not the new album, because you still.
Oh, Frayed Ends of Sanity.
It's the
Frayed Ends of
hardest.
Sanity, because the middle section is frickin' crazy. And I learned, okay, real quick, I got to tell you guys something, and you ladies, check this out. So when I first joined the band, the first couple years, I didn't know what the set list was going to be. I'd ask Kirk, what set do you think we're going to play? And he'd go, oh, we're going to play this and this and this, I think, right? And then, okay, and then I'd ask James, and he'd say, probably this. And it'd be completely different than what Kirk said. And then Lars would do the same thing, and then all of a sudden you get to the show, and it's like, oh, yeah, I want to play Phantom Lord tonight. And like, what? You know, it's like the complete curveball. So those first, you know, that first sort of year, I was always having cheat sheets. I would have to learn the song, you know, the night before, the day before, and I would literally have to have a cheat sheet to get through the song. So I always felt like I was chasing, you know, the you know, what I needed to do, chasing the song, so to speak. So at a certain point, when I kind of caught up, I said, okay, I am going to learn so many songs that they don't know even. So I learned Frayed Ends of Sanity 4 years before we ever played it, you know what I mean? And Orion, I learned that. Cthulhu, I learned all these songs so that when the song was called, I'd be prepared. But for me, it would be, Frayed Ends of Sanity.
Before Kirk answers, what's the easiest Metallica song for you? You can play without even thinking.
Oh, the easiest, well, that's Sandman. I mean, really, yeah, it's a great song, but it's also pretty straight up. And
Yeah, it never changes.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
Come on in, Kirk. What's yours? Hardest.
You know, just like, yeah, my mind, I cannot ever make up my mind whether Metallica stuff is hard or not, because, you know, when I think about jazz and complexity of jazz and jazz chords and like classical music and all that, Metallica doesn't measure up, and that's what I think is like really, really difficult to play music. So it's hard for me to put it into perspective, because it's all kind of just fun for me to play, you know, and I don't really struggle with much of it. I mean, there's like, if there's anything, you know, that might be a little sideways for me is right after the guitar solo of Dyer's Eve, we go into like every little tail right after each other. You know what part I'm talking about. And that is just like, it's really super fun to play. Him and I, when we play that, we play it super tight. And that's probably the most difficult, only because it just has so many rhythmic shifts. But I mean, our stuff isn't really that hard for me to play, but maybe it's because I've been playing it all my life.
All Nightmare Long was a challenge. All Nightmare Long had a lot of, it's like you're driving a race car and you're shifting gears. So there's a lot going on there. Super fun to play. And then what was the other one from the Death Magnetic?
Judas Kiss.
Judas Kiss. That's the one. That's the hardest one.
That's the one.
That's the hardest. Okay, we both agree on that.
Judas Kiss. It is.
Right,
All right.
listen.
Done.
I'm going to let them go, but before we do, we're going to do a picture down here with all of the guys. Should we do one?
What the hell did you say?
We're going to line up here.
we're gonna
us
go down
four,
there, take a
and
picture.
Kaz is going to do a picture of us all together.
Casio?
Okay.
All right, and then we're going to let them go, and we'll wrap this up.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. By the way.
Right. Big thank you to Kirk and Robert for coming along, and if you want to make some noise. Look at Casio. Right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Steve O.G.
We're going to carry on for a few minutes. Yeah. After you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Right then, sit down, which is what you were meant to do for that picture.
Yeah. I think that perfectly describes the dilemma Ross experiences now if he takes a band out on the street. That's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, no one listens.
Yeah. So the last picture we're going to talk about, this is taken at the St. James Club in Paris. And This is on the Black Album, I believe. It
Yep.
is. Yeah. And I thought we'd wrap it up with this just because we are in Paris. So
Now,
there you are.
you did a number of, an incredible amount of different portrait sessions with them all the time. And I remember Kirk saying before that, there was a constant demand for new images, magazines, and they did more and more press and promotion, and there was always new pictures. Is that, something that just doesn't happen now?
Yeah, it doesn't happen. It's sort of gone away.
With anyone.
They've done a quick press shoot. We're meant to do a press shoot, but a prime example of it, and I don't mean to be obnoxious, but it's true. I ask you to sit there while they do a picture and you'll run at them. And that's exactly like why we can't go outside, because magnify it, and you should have a bit more,
Well, now they know.
I don't know, what's the word?
No. But also just at that time, that seemed like around the Black Album and the amount of press, also the band were willing and cooperative and open to taking pictures.
Well, the
and
band are
different
still
setups.
open to taking pictures. It's just a matter of their time. As they get older, they have more to do. It's more about the internet, about social media, about online stuff. There's all different things. So, when we used to do it originally, we mainly did it for, we do pictures for a poster to buy, pictures for a tour book, pictures for the press, pictures for magazines. And now it's become far more magnified, which is harder to do.
Yeah, and we're going to take some questions in a few minutes, but I just wanted to bring it back to your beginnings as a music photographer and how that came about and how you see yourself now as a photographer. I mean, you started going to gigs primarily. It wasn't.
I started going to shows just like yourselves, but in those days you could just take a camera anywhere. And the first band, I used to shoot AC/DC at the Marquee Club in London when they were an unknown band, and they'd come over and they'd play on a Monday and Wednesday because it was the quiet nights. So, and then I did all the punk stuff. And I used to hang out with UFO, and then I got to shoot, I met Iron Maiden, who were a pub band, when it was like 3 lineups before what they became. And it was just stuff like that, how I became a photographer, really. And now I just, as I'm old, I tend to just work for people that, I look at it this way. A lot of people don't like me, but some do. So I will work for the people that like me and I enjoy working with more than anyone who's difficult for no reason.
Yeah, so I think we'll take a few questions. Keep it clean and sensible, if you can. And someone will bring a microphone. Down here will bring a microphone. Gentleman in the front row here with some ink.
Just curious if you ever still shoot with film, or have you gone digital?
My son is a photographer, shoots with film. I mean, I went to Egypt during COVID and shot with film, and I prefer film for black and white. For digital, colour is way better because you can shoot in low light, which you never could. But I still prefer film, black and white film, way over digital black and white. It has, it's tangible, it has something. But the problem with it is, you explain to an artist now, they've got to wait for you to take the film to the lab, wait 2 days to have it processed, make contact sheets, and then they can look at it. They want it now, which is because now the digital age is the age of now. So in a sense, that's the problem with shooting film.
Okay. Man in the hat there. That doesn't narrow it down, sorry. But someone had their hand up there. There you go.
Me?
You have the mic.
Okay. I was just wondering, when you take a picture, how much time you still need to work on the picture, and which photo programs you have to work with?
I always shoot everything on manual, and I just guess, really. I'm not very technically minded, and I don't like, I don't like Photoshop, I don't like Lightroom. I don't think that's photography, that's people playing around on a computer. I mean, a photograph should be very pure. It's either, you under or overexpose to get what you want. And I never, when I'm going to shoot something, I never plan it, because if you plan it, to me, it always goes wrong, or it never looks right. So I like to be quite spontaneous. And like Robert said earlier, I can prod a little bit to get what I want out of a picture. I remember very early on when Iron Maiden, before they were successful, their manager, Rod Smallwood, had this big thing about no smiling pictures, because he thought they'd to be like this, you know, to show that they were metal. And I would always go out of my way to make them laugh, because it would really piss Smallwood off. And I would do this all the time, and I've got all, you know, and because it looked more natural rather than a cliche. So I never prepare for a photo shoot ever. I just see what you know, the vibe on the day, and try and make it happen, you know.
So you don't need to enhance colors, etc.?
I mean, the only thing I do is adjust color, and that's about it. Literally adjust the color, because as you know, digital color is very flat. But I'm not into, like, you know, photoshopping stuff and, you know, playing with it. I just think it doesn't look right. I remember in the 90s, or should I say 2000, in the 90s, it was all this cross-process look, which I did some. And I look at it now, and it's awful. And I think in the 2000s, it became the desaturated look, taking all the color out. And you look at that now, and it looks shitty. So I prefer a picture to look like a picture should, you know. And even though when I do a shoot, I may use a light, I only like to use one light, because I remember a photographer called Terence Donovan, who was a very famous photographer who's dead now, and he said, if you don't know what he said, there's only one sun in the world, and the sun lights the world perfectly, so you only need one light, and if you need more than one light, you don't know what you're doing. So I actually like that. So I always think of, David Bailey would always shoot with one head, what you call a head, one light. So if I use lighting, I only use one light, never more.
And your preference would be for black and white?
Now it is. My preference is now for black and white, because if you look at pictures from 50 years ago, I think they look more, they stand the test of time more. And I think colour over a long period of time dates very quickly, where you look at a classic black and white picture, or an old black and white picture, and to me it still looks classic, which is why I like it.
Any more questions there? Oh. No.
You just touched on this a second ago when Robert was talking about how you like to come in and prod people, wind them up or offend them or make them laugh. Is that something you always set out to do from the start, or did you just discover over time that made for good photos, or got people to relax?
I think it's more to make people relax, to try and disarm them. Because people, when you first shoot a band, Metallica and Iron Maiden, I'm just thinking of them, are very stiff, and they look, because they're young and they're not used to it. And where if I line up Metallica now, they naturally fall into what you would think is the Metallica look. You know, they just do it without thinking. But when you first do them, they're a bit like, it's like trying to do wedding photography. You know, you think people want to pay you for this great day, and you get people blinking or with double chins, or who look, you know, their eyes are big, and then people think, oh, you did a terrible job. But it's more of, I want people to, when I take a picture, I like to try and make it look like they're relaxed and you know them. They're giving you something rather than just looking bored. I mean, I found some pictures of The Cure I took in '78 where Robert Smith is like super skinny, and I looked at him and he looks just like a schoolboy, which he probably was. And then someone's going, why didn't you publish them? But I think they look terrible. You know, I don't like them, you know, really.
Okay, I think we have time for one more, so let's make it a good one. Two more. There you go. Man with the hat here. There you go.
Thank you, Ross. I would like to know what was the worst photo session you did, and with which bands?
I'll tell you, it was Dogs.
On your entire career?
Yeah, my entire career, the worst, and there's two. Well, not two, not worst. I'll tell you two quick. The worst I ever did was Dogs d'Amour, who were this dreadful band from England with this moron called Tyler. And they turned up, and it was in Los Angeles, and he turned up with an entourage of 30 people thinking, and he was like, why aren't we doing this in the high desert? I mean, because we're in Hollywood, right? And he literally was sitting there like, this is boring. I said, fine, just go. And literally I shot 2 rolls of film, and the other one, I wouldn't say it's my worst, but it made me, this is what I won't put up with. There was a magazine called Classic Rock, and I was doing the awards, and I do portraits of people. And Mike Portnoy walked in, and he said, make it quick. And I don't even know him with his silly blue beard. And I shot 1 frame. I said, you're done. He goes, hey, you can take a few more. I went, no, you're done. And then he goes, hey, he can do a few more. And the artist said, trust me, you're done. So does that answer your question?
Okay, we'll take one more. Yeah, up the top there. Something uplifting to end on. No pressure.
Okay, here goes. I'm wondering, is there an image that you have not yet managed to capture, or is there maybe an opportunity you saw but then didn't grab, or is there maybe this image in your mind that you haven't yet managed to seize yet?
Metallica or just anything?
As a photographer in general, but actually with Metallica as well.
No, I think I'm pretty covered with Metallica. I mean, there's things I like. There's things like the picture of James in the book I talked about. I look at it, I'm like, oh, But, that was very much the image of the time. It's more that I don't like it, not that it's a particularly bad picture. What didn't I get? No, there's nothing I didn't really get. I mean, as a photographer, I did a shoot with Ozzy Osbourne in New Mexico, and he'd went on White Sands, and he'd been out all day, and he got up there and he went, I'm not doing it. I'm like, yes you are. He's like, no I'm not. Yes you are. No I'm not. And literally I got 5 frames, and he's like, fuck it, I'm not doing it, and walked down and left. And I was furious, and I went to come on, let's go back and do it. No. And I got 4 frames, and he's basically, because he's in silhouette, but you can just see his round glasses. And I really like the picture because you can just work out it's him. It's like more, and I thought it would I just did his last album cover. I thought it should be the cover, but you couldn't quite see it's him. So the people at the record company, everything wouldn't see it. It was a bit too obscure, but I like that. And I took one other of him, which I cropped, which is just his hand, and you can read Ozzy, and he's got a bathrobe, and he's getting makeup done for a TV thing, and I like that. I like more obscure stuff. It's like the reason I like the Metallica one where they're all pretty drunk on the jet at the time is, it wouldn't happen now, and I just think it shows some form of, we were having a great time, and that's what I quite like, and we got these terrible old, Kirk's holding his VHS camera, and Lars is preening, and James is wearing Johnny Colt's hat of the Black Crowes. And I just like the picture because it's to me, it's very much the essence of why they all gel together. That's why I like the picture.
Okay, everyone. The book, The Black Album in black and white, is available downstairs, signed copies, and Ross will be signing some if you want to make your way down there. And I want to thank Ross and thank all of you and Glenat and MK2 for such a wonderful evening. Thank you all for coming.